Hey Joe, hi everyone. This is the continuation of my Jimi Hendrix special weekend. And as I said yesterday, I hope that we can get this up on YouTube. If not, it will have to be excerpts, and you will find the complete version on my Ko-fi and Patreon pages. But fingers crossed, we'll be able to put this on YouTube this weekend. Well, let's see what I have to learn about Hey Joe, because I don't even know. Hey Joe is an American song from the 1960s that has become a rock standard and has been performed in many musical styles by hundreds of different artists. The authorship of the song has been contested, and different recordings have credited its writing to either Billy Roberts or Dino Valenti, or have listed it as a traditional song. That's interesting because if it was kind of new in the 1960s. Well, we don't know if it was written in the 1960s, but that's when it became popular, I suppose. Anyway, it's kind of the same way that happens with every single folk song. As I'm reading this paragraph, I almost feel like I'm reading the origins of a folk song, because obviously any folk song, somebody somewhere had to have created it at some point. But for whatever reason, either because it's so long ago and everyone has forgotten, or because it became so embedded in the culture of the place and people that everybody learned it, and of course the author wasn't credited every time, so it became this piece of music without a name attached to it. It's interesting that this is kind of the same, but quite recent, in the 60s. Well, it says, Hey Joe was registered for copyright in the US in 1962 by Billy Roberts, a California-based folk musician. So somebody claimed ownership of it. When Jimi Hendrix was exploring a more rock-oriented sound in New York City in 1966 with his group Jimmy James and the Blue Flames, I guess that was before or after, probably before the Jimi Hendrix experience. Hey Joe was one of the first songs he performed regularly. Looking for musical acts to produce, Chas Chandler, the ex-bassist for The Animals, checked out Hendrix. By chance, the first song Hendrix performed during Chandler's visit was Hey Joe, a song Chandler was interested in promoting. As a result, Chandler decided to take Hendrix with him to England in September 1966, where he would subsequently turn the guitarist into a star. Yeah, so Jimmy James and the Blue Flames was kind of early. Released in December 1966, Hendrix's version became a hit in the United Kingdom, entering the top 10 of the UK singles chart in January 1967, and peaking at number 6. It was listed at number 201 on Rolling Stones magazine's The 500 Greatest Songs of All Time in 2010, and in 2000, Total Guitar magazine ranked it as the 13th greatest cover version of all time. Well, that's impressive. In 2009, it was named the 22nd greatest hard rock song of all time by VH1. Number 13th of all time, 22nd of all time, that's kind of high up there. Well, let's see what this is sounding like.
Hey Joe, where you going with that gun of yours?
interesting because it has this kind of earthy, gritty feel to it. This idea of it being a folk song is in my mind from what I read at the beginning, and there are things that make me think of, well, it has this rather dark quality to it. It's sort of a very American sounding folk song. It's not about, it's about something that just feels so American, even the way the words are phrased and everything. I'm just scanning ahead. I see it even talks about way down to Mexico way, so it definitely an American folk song, if we want to call it that. But the way it's set musically, sonically, there's this kind of rough and rugged quality to it. And then came these choral style voices. And now here in this bit, it suddenly gets very... There's a beautiful balance between the earthy, gritty, dark side and something incredibly beautiful. It feels like kind of the rugged quality of early America, when things were incredibly beautiful and at the same time incredibly dark in many ways.
I did, I shot her. You know, I shot my old lady that's around town. And I gave her the gun. I shot her. All right.
I guess
Shoot her one more time again.
I like the guitar sound. And I like it set against these smooth, light voices.
Hey, Joe, where you gonna run to now? Where you gonna run to? Hey, Joe,
It's interesting the way he uses the guitar both very lyrically, and then he does whatever this technique is called, but it sounds kind of like more of a percussive, just little chick, chick sound on the strings. And, well, I could give you names on the harp, but that would be irrelevant. The idea is that he's treating the guitar, maybe I would say holistically. He's treating it, you know, in the classical world, we have these traditional ways of using instruments. And then in the 20th century, it became really, really trendy, perhaps even too trendy, to try to come up with new ways of getting sounds out of the instruments. If you've ever heard of a prepared piano or a prepared harp, the idea is you put things on it. Maybe you put paper clips on the strings, or you weave felt through the strings, or something to make the instrument create a different kind of sound. In other words, you have to prepare it ahead of time. And of course, trying to explore all the different techniques you can come up with to do more than simply, you know, the classic sound. And I don't want to stereotype and say that the classic sound is dull or boring. But the idea is that people were looking for new ways of pushing the boundaries. Well, coming back to this here. Well, let me link the two of those ideas together. The idea is that a lot of that experimentation feels contrived at first. It feels like, why do you put thumbtacks on the instrument? Whatever for? But then, out of all that experimentation, after a while, the chaff blows away and there is something that is gained from it, which remains and becomes a part of the integral instrumental language and technical substance, which then continues through the next decades, centuries perhaps even. And I feel like the way that Hendrix is treating his guitar in this song. Well, I've listened to a lot of Brian May's guitar, and he's very lyrical and beautiful, or he gets a wonderful gritty sound as well. But it's different than Jimi Hendrix. I'm listening to Jimi Hendrix here, and I'm hearing him treat it both lyrically and, shall we say, percussively. In other words, he's looking at the instrument, he's treating the instrument almost as multiple instruments in one. Or we could say as an orchestra. Because I like to explain, people sometimes ask me, what's the point of a conductor? Why does he stand up there and wave his arms? I mean, can't everyone, these are all trained musicians, why can't they just play? They can just play. But the idea is that the conductor is treating the orchestra as an instrument and is calling out all these different capacities from this vast instrument, which is far more than any single instrument. I feel like Jimi Hendrix is treating his guitar a bit like an orchestra. He's calling out all these different things. There's the percussion section, there's the lyrical section, there's the bass section, there's all of this. There's the vocal section, there's the violins, and he's doing it in a way that he's not creating a whole orchestra at once, like, say, the Brian May multi-tracked guitar ensembles. It's just one single instrument here. But somehow it feels incredibly orchestral to me in the different things that he's calling out from the instrument. And I like that. You almost don't hear it because it happens right when the drum plays, but I'm pretty certain that's guitar there. Say this sounds like there's a lot of blues style in it. Rhythms and the little interjections. And it just ends like that. Interesting. I guess I'm fascinated with this Jimi Hendrix sound, and I'm glad that Vlad has another little project planned for me sometime soon, because I'm eager to explore a bit more of his stuff than I can fit into one weekend here. Well, let's go back and listen to a little bit of it again, because I noticed a couple things and I want to pick them out and be able to show you what I noticed, and it's easiest if we just go through it together. This opening is kind of funny. I'm not really sure what that's all about. Vlad told me this is the official audio recording, and there's this, sounds like a vehicle or something, right? So what's the point of it? Is it about Hey Joe? Are we driving up? Are we pulling up to Hey Joe and asking him something? Or is Hey Joe pulling up to us and we're like, Hey Joe, what's going on here? Where are you going? You've got a gun in your hand. I don't know, but it's probably supposed to have something to contribute. And then the song starts. It sounds like he's kind of just tuning up here, right? And then. So this little opening, dum bum dee dee dum dee 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 dee. Let's see, I'll just mark it here because it's nice to be able to see if you can read what I'm talking about. It's kind of free. I mean, there's a pulse to it, but it doesn't really feel like we've settled. It really feels like a bit of a tuning moment. Test out the instrument. Ding, 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 da, 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 da. Okay, yeah, okay, let's get started on the song. And then the drums come in and the bass come in and things get underway. Now, when they come in, I noticed that there is a persistent, repeated harmonic sequence throughout practically the entire song. Well, I'd have to go through and listen to the entire thing again to see if there's ever any place where it breaks, but I didn't notice in my first listen that it broke the pattern anywhere. And we can hear it right away. Here it is.
Hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand?
And here it comes again. This is the second place.
Hey Joe, I said, where you going with that gun in your hand?
And here it comes again. You can hear it, and it's the sequence that we hear in the voices. Bum, bum. My pen is dropping. Bum, 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 bum. And then it's the same sequence in which the bass is doing its bass part. And I want to pick up my pen so I can point that out to you. And since the song repeats the same thing over and over and over throughout, we don't have to go back to the beginning. We can just start right here. So the bass, if we listen for it, bum, da, bum. And then it walks up again, kind of walks its way through. We land on a D. Well, I should go ahead and play this for you. So we have a... And then we end up moving to here. And then to here. And then end up on an E. It's kind of a reverse of the famous Pachelbel's canon sequence, I'm going to call it, which actually has been used in so much popular music that we can't really call it Pachelbel's sequence anymore. It's this one. I've talked about that before. But what I want to point out is that it's moving by fourths. And so it starts on a G, moves down 4 notes. By the way, I'm playing in a G rather than D as the original, because we can move it around. Then it moves up 1, and it walks down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it walks up 1, and walks down 4. 2, 3, 4. So we're working with the interval of fourths. And what I notice here is that this particular song uses fourths also, but instead of moving downwards in the sequence, we end up finding our way moving upwards. Listen, here's the first of the sequence. We move down 4. We kind of walk our way up, and we find ourselves on a D, which was a bit higher than the first note. We walk down 4. We find ourselves moving up again. And now we're on the E. And we stay on E for a little bit. And then we end up starting the whole sequence over again. So we're moving from here to here to here. Moving upwards, but we have this sort of descending feeling. Now, what's my point in showing it? What's my reason for pointing that out? It's because I notice a really great contrary motion quality in the parts of the music which really don't even ask for much attention. But what it does is it gives this wonderful sense of containment and movement in which the guitar and the voice can shine. That is the bass moving upwards and these sweet choral voices moving downwards. And it happens at the same time. And so it's a contrary motion, sort of pulling it together, gathering it in. And it happens over and over and over again throughout. And it lets us just settle into the routine and relax and be able to ride the waves of whatever the voice and guitar is doing in that moment. And it's also one of the things that makes it feel a little bit traditional folk tune quality, because it's not doing any fancy compositional harmonic sequential stuff. I feel like Jimi Hendrix has handled this incredibly well. It has a particular sound, and even though I have not listened to a lot of Hendrix yet, I hear there's something special about the way he plays, and his voice as well has a good timbre to it for this kind of music. And it has his own fingerprints, his own style. But it doesn't feel like it's been taken out of context. It doesn't feel like it is living in a world in which it doesn't belong. It feels like it truly belongs here. Like this is its home, its place to live, which I think is kind of cool because for such a traditional style song, and I don't want to make the mistake of disregarding whoever really truly composed this, but it clearly did become embedded in the musical repertoire of the day. And for such a traditional style song, we could say folk song, to be able to give a rendition of it that feels like it truly belongs, it catches all the qualities of it and conveys it in such a great manner. It's really quite an accomplishment. It doesn't feel like you've borrowed something or you've picked something up and, kind of tried to remake it in your image. It's as if Jimi Hendrix is the song, and the song is Jimi Hendrix. That's pretty good. Well, this piece of music, I guess I feel it a bit differently than the one yesterday. Yesterday, it was one that felt really powerfully deep and intense. Well, this one does have a depth to it too, but I guess I would say it's a little bit less demanding to listen to. I won't classify it as easy listening, but it's certainly less demanding. And I talked a bit yesterday about how that song, I probably wouldn't put it on in the background. This one, I could have it playing while I'm driving or while I'm doing some activity. So it asks me to relate to it on a different level than the one from yesterday. And that's nice to see as well with an artist, is their ability to produce different kinds of music, we could say, for different contexts and different needs, perhaps. I don't mean that this is somehow shallow, because, as I said yesterday, just because I can listen to it in the background doesn't mean that it's trite or shallow. It's just a different kind of musical experience. And part of it has to do, I think, with the way this repeated pattern helps to gather everything in and bring us along the journey. A lovely piece of music, and it feels like I'm listening to a piece of Americana. Really, it does. So that was quite a nice experience. Well, Vlad has told me now what his extended Hendrix project is for me. And it's going to go on beyond this weekend. It's actually going to go through next weekend on my Ko-fi and Patreon pages. You see, the lives that I've been talking about there, what we normally do is we sit down all together, everyone tunes in, and we listen together to each of the pieces of music that I have been through on the channel over the past week. And we discuss, we comment, we share, we enjoy the time together, kind of like, friends getting all together in a living room and for an evening of musical enjoyment and discussion. A little bit informal, definitely music focused. Well, this coming weekend, a week from today, it's going to be a little bit different, because rather than focusing on going through all the music that has come on the channel this week, Vlad wants to introduce me to Woodstock, and particularly Jimi Hendrix's performance at Woodstock. And he's selected the pieces which I have listened to now, and we are going to listen to both of them, all three of them actually, because, the third one is also performed there? Right. So at least 3 pieces. Maybe he has another surprise for me. And we will watch the performance, the live performance. Of course, it's a recorded live performance by now, but we're going to watch that performance all together and have a nice time sharing, discussing, centered around that. And it will be my first time watching Jimi Hendrix play live. And I'm kind of excited about it. We also have a little surprise, because Vlad has this 3-record set, which he wants to offer as a gift. And so we're going to do a little giveaway at the end of the live meetup next Sunday. And some lucky winner will get to have this mailed to them. It says Woodstock, music from the original soundtrack and more. I see some artist names that I recognize. John Baez. I learned, somebody corrected me on my channel and told me how to pronounce Baez. I think I was saying Baez. John Baez. Of course, Jimi Hendrix. I see The Who. And of course, other names as well, which I haven't heard yet. I see that it is copyrighted in 1970, so it's kind of old-ish, perhaps. And so we're going to do all of that this coming Sunday. Join us if you wish, and we will have a lovely time of it. I've enjoyed this weekend. I have enjoyed getting more familiar with Jimi Hendrix, and I'll see you all soon.